The leaves are falling, the wind is blowing, and the shadows in Virginia's mountain and valleys are feeling unusually social, which can only mean one thing. It's time for our annual Haunted Adventure video. So, whatever you do, don't change the channel, because the spirits have a way of getting jealous when you ignore them. So, before those jealous spirits get restless, let's go ahead and get started right now. Hi, my name's Stefan, aka the Invisible Man.
Translation. He vanishes whenever a golf course calls his name.
Hey, it's research. The course has homes all around it, right?
All right. Well, today, Stefan and I are going to take you to the heart of downtown Staunton and show you 3 homes in 3 price points, giving you 3 chances to fall in love with small town charm and convenience. So if you've ever dreamed of living steps away from Staunton's restaurants, shops, and music scene, this is your inside tour.
But for all its beauty and bustle, Staunton has a darker side. Some of its oldest buildings still echo with stories, whispers of locals who never quite checked out. So, hang around as we share a tale of a former resident who just can't seem to stay quiet. But before we tell you about some of Staunton's more persistent residents, let's go up the street here on Beverley Street here in Staunton and take a look at our first home. All right, so we've come out here to the west end of Beverley Street, just outside the main part of the downtown area. Of course, you're right next to the downtown area here, and the home that you see over there with the yellow trim and the windows is the home we're going to talk about here in just a second. But we get calls from time to time from folks who are looking to run a business out of the main floor and looking to live in the upper part. Well, this is one of those opportunities to do that, although this home has been totally remodeled in 2021, and the lower level has also been turned into living space. But that's something that could be easily changed, of course, as well. But like I say, this home is it's actually just 4/10 of a mile from back down the road down there where the clock tower was, and so you're very close here in town, walkable distance to downtown. Now, this home also sits in the Newtown neighborhood. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the historical Newtown neighborhood, or Leslie's going to tell you here.
We'll talk about it
when we take a look at our next home. But for right now, Leslie's going to give you some information about the home, and we'll show you some pictures inside after she gets done.
All right, this home is currently listed and active on the market at $325,000. It was built in the year 1900. It has 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, and 1 half bathroom. Total square feet is 1,440, and that makes it about $226 per square foot, and it sits on 0.07 of an acre.
All right, so let's take a look at some of those pictures. All right, so for our next home, we're going to get you about as close to downtown as you possibly can without being actually in the downtown area. And so the home we're going to look at's up there. So let's go ahead, let's walk this way, and Leslie's going to tell you a little bit about the Newtown neighborhood that I mentioned before, and a little bit about this church here as well.
Yeah, this is actually located in, as Stefan said, the Newtown district. This is the Trinity Episcopal Church. It was actually finished being built in 1855. It is a Gothic revival style, but the most, the best feature to me inside this church are the Tiffany windows. Yes, those are Tiffany stained glass windows in this church, and they are just beautiful. I could go in there just to look at them all day.
And we've been in there before.
We have been in there before, but they have music festivals in here because the acoustics in it are just amazing. There's a pipe organ in there as well. So yes, this is a beautiful, beautiful church, and it is one of my favorites here.
All right. We got some people trying to get out of our picture there. Hi! How y'all doing? So anyway, but no, like I say, you know, this is part of the Newtown district. Newtown district is the largest area here. But I'm going to go up to our house. Our house is up the street here. Literally will probably be there in 2 minutes maybe. But I mentioned that I was going to talk about the story here in Staunton, our haunted story. And I'm going to do that. But first, before I actually start talking about the story, I want to talk about a group here in Staunton, and that is the Ghosts of Staunton tour here. And
little known fact,
recently Leslie and I was asked by the owner to be tour guides on that. So if you come down to Staunton, we'd love to have you on our tour. It's a lot of fun, a lot of history.
Historical ghost tour of
and
Staunton.
Some ghost stories as well, exactly. So, but like I say, and you can go on their website. They're actually, they are totally local. All the stories that come out of Staunton have come from their group doing the research. There's another group in town, but we're the local group, and the group that is
the best.
That's right, and have the experiences of people that have gone in and done investigations in these buildings here in Staunton. So
actual stories that they've researched, investigated.
And that's one of them that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. So let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and go up here around the corner and take a look at our next home here in the Newtown neighborhood. All right, so we're going to go take a look at our second home right here, just down the street a little bit. But before we do, I figured kind of give you some more character of this neighborhood. This is Stewart Hall School. It's a private school, also a boarding school. And then just look at look at this old house here on the corner. I mean, look at all the beautiful turrets up top and everything. Just a beautiful structure. And then as we turn around this way to walk down to our next home, we got another Episcopal church here, and way up there is the steeple. And so,
bell tower.
The bell tower. There you go. But like I say, it kind of gives you some more of the character of this neighborhood. And the house that we're going to take a look at coming up right here is an Italianate design house, and it was built in 1895, so it's got a lot of that character in it. And I'm going to turn around here.
Okay,
see if we can get
I'm going to swing around with you.
There we go. And it's that one right over there. And
so
it's like I say, when they remodeled it, it's another remodeled home as well. When they remodeled it, they kept much of that design, and so you've got that old feel along with modern and new conveniences as well. Now, of course, like I said, you're close to everything. This is literally 2/10 of a mile from the clock tower, less than a 5-minute walk to get into downtown Staunton. But Leslie's going to go ahead and she's going to give you some of the information about this home if you're interested in it.
You mean other than the fact that I would be drinking coffee on that front deck?
Yes, we know.
Okay, so all right, let's get at it. It is currently active on the market for $625,000. It has 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, and 1 half bathroom. A total of 2,202 square feet in that house, which makes it about $284 a square foot. And it's sitting on 0.06 of an acre lot.
First of all, we come here to the, well, on my right here anyways, the Gospel Hill neighborhood, and we've got the President Woodrow Wilson Presidential Library complex here in the buildings here. And so, Leslie, it is your turn.
Wow.
Tell us a little bit about the Gospel Hill neighborhood.
Okay. If I don't run into you first.
I know.
All right, so how did Gospel Hill get its name? Do you know how it got its name, Stephen?
There were some gospel singers that sang on top of the hill.
No, actually, on the corner of North Coulter and Beverley Street, there was a blacksmith shop back in the day. And at the blacksmith shop, they used to have revival meetings. And that is how this area got its name, Gospel Hill. So, little
cool.
known fact. Yeah, pretty cool. So another really cool fact about this area is the Colorama House, which is just a few streets over. The manse there was owned by a man by the name of William Beverley. Well, you may think, Beverley, who is that? Well, another really cool landmark here in the Gospel Hill area is his house, and William Beverley actually is the man responsible for the lay of all the streets here in Staunton. And Beverley Street is named after him.
Cool.
So that's pretty cool. The neighborhood here is kind of like Newtown. It's historical. There's about 180 buildings actually in this neighborhood.
Big houses, though.
Oh, golly. We're going to feature one.
Just look at some of these. Look at some of these across the road there.
Well, right behind us here, Berkeley Place, which is a huge, huge house here in this area on the corner.
Another one down there going over your head there. Another one over here in the corner. Just a whole lot of stuff that is really just beautiful, beautiful. So.
It is amazing. But
all right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit about this neighborhood. Again, tree-lined streets and large houses and
let's show them that one right there. How about that?
Let's
you gonna come over here?
This one.
Come on, you be in the picture.
Are
too.
you going to swing around again?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done dancing. So yeah, like Leslie said, now that this is an amazing neighborhood, and this is our third remodeled home here, and it has kept its original character, definitely. I mean, for example, you'll see inside, when show the pictures here in a second, you'll see some of the trim on the mantles and just the trim in its house. I mean, it really is. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now, also, they've taken the time to finish out the attic, and man, it's just what a really neat place up there. So then, now this neighborhood, Gospel Hill, is a very sought after neighborhood, and from obviously you're just down at the bottom of the hill to get to the main part of Beverley Street, but in keeping with where we've been talking about the clock tower, you're about 0.6 of a mile away from the clock tower. So Leslie, tell them a little bit about this house that's for sale behind us and some of its stats.
Let's talk a little bit about it. It is currently active on the market for $849,900. It was built in 1894, has 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, and 2 half bathrooms. And the total square feet in this house are 3,097 square feet, which makes this about $274 a square foot. It is sitting on a 0.08 of an acre lot.
All right, so for our haunted story, I figured we'd come back here at night. Better to tell a haunted story at night anyway, right? So our story takes place in the building that you see right across the street there. Today it's occupied by the Queen City Bistro, but it has been occupied by other businesses as well. And one of the early businesses in that location, well, we'll talk about that in just a second. But to begin, we have to go all the way back to Greece in the early 1900s and back to James Vanes. Now, James, it was a man that he was a hard worker. He was dedicated. He had passion and he had a dream. He wanted to be successful in life. But things in Greece just weren't working out for him. He just didn't seem like it was the right thing. So he bought a ticket, brought a few family members with him, including his uncle, and they traveled all the way across the ocean on a ship, and they ended up landing in the state of Ohio. Now, while James was there, he worked very hard, worked multiple jobs in order to try to get ahead, and was making a little bit of money, but not really a big impact. And when he was doing all that, all of a sudden along came World War I, and the United States entered the war, and James fought for the United States on the European field, down in the trenches with the other men. Now, when James was there was one thing, however, that he really treasured. And that thing that he treasured was a little book. The book had been written by his grandmother and written in Greek, and it contained all of the confectionery and candy recipes that had been handed down to her over the generations, and that she had written some herself as well. So James always kept that close to him, and finally the war got over and he came back to the States, and he went back to Ohio, and when he went back and found an utter disaster. His uncle that had been with him had squandered all of his money through gambling and through alcohol, and James was right back to square one, right back at the beginning, penniless and still yet had a dream. And now, of course, as I mentioned, James was a hard worker, and James went back to work, but while he was doing that, he got in touch with one of his buddies from the war. And his buddy said, you ought to really check out the town of Staunton, Virginia. They got a railroad a few years ago, and it's just a really bustling town, a growing town, and you ought to check it out. It might be an opportunity for you. So James did a little research, and sure enough, that's what he did. He went and he bought a ticket and came out here by himself to Staunton, Virginia. Well, when he got here, James, he just like he did in Ohio, he worked multiple jobs here. He moved stock down at the railroad station. He talked about he worked dishes, washing dishes, and he worked at sweeping floors. All different kinds of jobs he worked very, very hard for. As time went on, he was making a little bit of money, but nowhere near where he needed to be successful, at least with what he wanted. And he began to get discouraged. And in addition to that discouragement, you know what? One of the reasons he was discouraged was because that he was there alone. And of course, when you're alone, things tend to get discouraging. And so one day, after things had built up, he kind of made a decision that maybe I made a mistake by coming here to Staunton. Maybe I need to go back to Ohio. And so after a few days of thinking about that, that's exactly what he did. He went down to the train station here in Staunton, and he bought a train ticket. Came back and he was packing his bags, and as he came back packing his bags, he packed them up, got ready to go down to the train station, and on his way down to the train station, he was walking down one of the hills here in Staunton. And of course, the roads back then were brick or dirt roads, and they of course, had horses on them at the time too, in the late teens, early 20s. And so as James was walking down one of these hills, all of a sudden he tripped on something and fell flat on his face, right into the dust and whatever else might have been there. James was so angry, he let up, he had a curse under his breath, and he got up wondering what it was he had tripped over, and he looked down and he picked up a horseshoe. Yes, he had tripped over a horseshoe right in the middle of the street. And now, while most of us would just be angry and go on, not James. You see, because James was from the old country, and James had some superstitions. And one of the things that he said about this horseshoe was that this is a sign, this is providence, I should stay here in Staunton and continue to do what I'm doing. So he did. He went back to his apartment and he began to work. He doubled down even more on his jobs. He worked more jobs and more jobs. And finally, after a few years, the building that you see behind me there, Queen City Bistro, he was able to purchase that building. Now, when he purchased that building, he went straight in, he went straight to work. He set up his candy shop. It was known as Vames's Sweet Shop. And now, James, when he did something, he did it right. He went and he bought a couple large marble tables, put them downstairs in the basement, on top of the bricks down there, and worked out of the main level and then lived upstairs. Now, James worked very, very hard, but the thing about it was, James was still alone. And, of course, that was wearing on James, but then one day, into town comes a woman of his dreams. And as a matter of fact, so much so that she was even a Greek woman. And on top of that, she was a baker. You talk about a Hallmark story. Well, I'm telling you what, that was a Hallmark story. So they were married, and she would bake, and he would make his candies. And I mean, just imagine the smells that would come out of that building back there. And people would line up outside the building so that they could get all of the candies and all of the baking goods, and the store became very, very successful. There were newspaper articles that were written about it, and James was known by the locals here as Staunton as Staunton's Willy Wonka. You see, because James's chocolates and his nougats and his taffy and all of the things that he did, they were unique. It was so unique that there just wasn't anything like that here in the area, and there wasn't anything like that in most areas here in the United States, except maybe in the larger cities, because of the special, unique recipes that he had from back in Greece. So, James was also an entrepreneur. Long before Russell Stober's thought of it, he created a heart-shaped box, filled it with candies, and gave that box, sold that box to his customers. Very, very successful over the years, and James was very happy. He loved doing what he did, and he loved Staunton, and of course, he loved his wife, and they were here for nearly 50 years. But, as they say, all good things must come to an end, and finally, as James and his wife got up in years, the building passed hands. One of the businesses that came into the building was Luigi's Italian Restaurant. Now, Luigi's restaurant had multiple people that worked for them, and they started noticing some unusual things that would happen. You know, nothing really big, but just maybe a little voice, or maybe some things being moved from the night before, but nothing really major. But eventually, what happened was that they started hearing voices in the basement. And they started hearing footsteps. The old brick stones down there where those marble tables used to lay or used to sit, and they would hear the scratching of the bricks, that the mortar between those bricks as it aged. And so it got to the point where none of the people who worked there, at least the waiters and waitresses, none of them, or the cooks, they didn't want to go down into the basement. Of course, they stored wine and flour, and so they would often have to go down in there, and they didn't want to go alone, but when they had to, they didn't like it. And as a matter of fact, there were two different individuals that went down in that basement, and when they went there, they said they felt a rush of wind that came right, and it wasn't a regular wind, it was like something that went right through them. And said they ran back upstairs, and they looked at Luigi, and they quit on the spot. No way they're going to go back in that basement. But then a few years later, we have another business that comes in here. We have the Pompeii Lounge. Now, you got lights, you got music, you got noise, you got a lot of upbeat type things going on. And the story here is very interesting, because one night there was a busboy who had worked at the Pompeii Lounge for only about 3 weeks. He and the bartender were left one night in the lounge, and they were doing their job. He was cleaning tables. The bartender was getting the bar set up for the next day. And he was up on top of the roof, on top of that building. They used to have tables and lights up on top of the roof. And as he's bussing tables up there, he looks up, and there's a man, a bald man, a thin man in a white coat walking across the roof. Well, the busboy is just kind of flabbergasted, and he watches, speechless, as the man disappears into one of the dark corners on top of the roof. Now, there's no other exit off the top of that roof other than where the busboy was standing. And so, I mean, the man would have had to jump off the cliff, but it was dark, you couldn't see. But so the busboy went and he checked, and sure enough, no man on the roof. So he runs downstairs to the bartender. And when he gets down to the bartender, he says, I think we've left somebody in the building. The bartender says, no, we've got it closed. Well, is it an employee I don't know about? And the bartender says, no, we're the only two people that are here. I don't know what you saw, but it's just us. So they finish their job that night and they go home, and obviously that really troubled this busboy. So he comes back the next day and he talks to the owner of the Pompeii Lounge. And the owner of the Pompeii Lounge, listening to his story about the man in the white coat that walked across the roof, and he's kind of unsure about that, but as he's explaining the story, all of a sudden he stops and he says, the busboy, he says, that's him. And the man says, what? What's that him? That's him. The picture on the wall behind you there. That's him. What? That picture? The guy on the wall there? He says, yes, that's him. That's the guy that I saw. To which the owner of the Pompeii Lounge replies, says, it can't be. That's James Vanes. He's been dead for decades now. So we have two different times when people have seen or heard or felt a presence that we believe to be James Vanes. And some people say that why James is still here, and people say that it's because of that horseshoe and his superstition. When he tripped over that horseshoe, that was something that tied him inexplicably here to Staunton forever. Other people say that it's his love for what he did here in the candy store. It's his love for the people of Staunton, his love for his wife, and everything that he did here for the nearly 50 years, that his spirit is still tied here and it just won't let him leave. But whatever the case, the next time that if you come here and you go in the Queen City Bistro, maybe you can ask some of the waiters or waitresses there to see if they have heard anything or seen anything that might be unusual, or that might even just be James Vanes. And so with that, I'm going to ask my partner in crime, or my ghost hunting partner here, to come back in here with me. And so what do you think about that?
I thought it was really good. It's quite a story, and actually Staunton's quite a small city, and we hope that you've enjoyed learning a little bit about how vibrant downtown Staunton living can be. I mean, from its houses with storefronts to stately homes on a hill, living in downtown Staunton is a unique experience that is really filled with a lot of historical details, incredible architecture, walkable streets, and a lifestyle that puts you right in the middle of it all.
Exactly, Leslie. You know, I mean, homes here in downtown Staunton are just close to its restaurants and its shops and its theaters. I mean, they're part of the same rich history that really shaped this city. Mm-hmm. And, you know, whether you're interested in a home here in downtown Staunton or anywhere else here in the Shenandoah Valley or Charlottesville area, Leslie and I, we would love to help you.
Absolutely.
But you got to call us, text us, or email us.
Or email us.
Yeah, like
or
say, we'd be
schedule a
happy to
Zoom
help.
call.
There you go. But to end the video, as we've learned tonight, there are some Staunton residents who still want to make their presence known today.
They don't want to go anywhere.
Nope. And stories like James Vanes reminds us that every brick downtown has seen its share of dreams, of dedication, and maybe even a little lingering love.
Oh.
So, if you visit downtown Staunton and you feel a chill in the air, or maybe you hear a faint whisper when the streets are still at night, don't worry. It might just be one of those jealous, restless spirits, making sure you haven't forgotten about them. And I hope you won't forget about us either. Right. And I hope that the next time I go play golf, Leslie won't forget about me either.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
But until then, I'm going to disappear into the night. But you may or may not see me around town.